Hello, LBS 400 students. Welcome to your early literacy concepts review videos. This is the last of many. We've gone A through G now of all these concepts from our course and our textbook by Cunningham and Allington. And in this one, we're going to be wrapping up one of the most important concepts that we need to discuss, which is the will to learn. What does the motivation come from? How do students find that motivation where they want to learn to read? So we're going to talk a lot about that today in this video. I'm going to share my screen with you. So we've gone A through G. Look how far you've come already. You've done all these concepts here of understanding why we read and write, background knowledge and vocabulary, print concepts, phonemic awareness, concrete words, letter sounds and names, and now finally a desire to learn to read. This is the most mysterious thing that teachers have to tackle, is what creates that desire for learning to read. Well, we know that reading is a very personal thing for children because it is based upon their own language and communication. It has to start from those foundational skills which they've learned from their families. Therefore, reading becomes very personal. All literacy is very personal. In fact, a lot of people will reflect on the process they went through and find it ideal, even if it wasn't because it was their own. And so that desire to learn to read stems from their own background in language and how they get to express themselves, and then add to that in school. So it's a very interesting process that combines your own personal identity with academic content. And we have to treat it with that same reverence all the time and recognize how important and personal it is to everyone. It's not just a simple skill. It's very, very personal, and it becomes part of your identity. So there are experts out there that say these are the most important activities that promote early literacy: talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing. And out of these activities, there's some nice cards that explain each of them that are on Blackboard for you. And this video you're going to watch in a moment, this lady in the video is the expert who has designed those cards. So she's a literacy expert. And so we're going to talk about each of these, and we're going to focus today on reading, but we're going to talk about each of these. So talking, let's start with that one. When we consider talking and how it relates to early literacy, like I mentioned, that's the foundation. The beginning step is oral communication. Children must learn how to speak with complete sentences, ask questions, answer questions, have a conversation that goes back and forth, have discussions, tell stories, elaborate on things, give details, they learn order and sequencing. All of this happens aloud before they can actually read. And that's actually part of the kindergarten standards. So you have to really consider how important talking is and build those things into your lessons. The next one is singing. I will not demonstrate any singing for you for all of our sakes, but you've probably seen plenty of good examples of little songs and things that teachers do throughout their lessons to add some fun to the activity. And singing has to do with, yes, making it more engaging and fun, but it also teaches kids prosody and rhyming and rhythm and things that are really important for literacy later on. Reading, of course, is the big one we're going to discuss in a moment. And so often in those primary grades, before they get to where they're actually reading independently, we're talking about modeling reading. And so teachers will help students learn to read by doing sight words with them, by doing phonics lessons. They're also going to get them more excited about reading when they see someone actually put it all together into a process by reading a book or reading a story. And that's what we're going to look at today in the next few slides. The last two here, writing and playing, are very important as well. And writing seems like a pretty obvious one. Of course, we're going to practice writing our alphabet. We're going to practice writing words. We're going to put it all together. But we want to try and keep these things all connected and in context if possible. We don't want to isolate these skills by themselves. We want them to all connect to one another. So keep that in mind when you're teaching writing. Finally, the last one is often taken for granted. I think once we get past kindergarten, we start to forget that playing is a big part of literacy. Kids need to role play, act things out, dance, make a model, create something. They need to move around. They need to do hands-on things that relate to the things they are reading. And that helps them process and build a context around that literacy. All right, so you can check out those cards that are on Blackboard for you. It's a nice little PDF, and they go over talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing. and they're all by this lady here. And so this video, which I'm going to have you watch next, is all about doing read alouds and doing what we call an aside. And you've probably seen a lot of primary teachers do this, and even upper grades as well. I used to do it even as a middle school teacher. When you're reading aloud to students, you'll see a lot of teachers who stop and pause and ask a question or point something out in the story, or they might make a comment. They might ask students to connect something that they've read to their personal lives. Those are all examples of asides. When we watch really good teachers teach, sometimes we think that this is just sort of a spontaneous thing. But in fact, it's actually part of a lesson plan, and it's really well planned out. So it's intentional and it's carefully done. So this lady is going to give you some wonderful examples of how to do asides. Then, once you're done watching that, I would like you to come over and check out some YouTube videos. I would like you to do some searching on your own. This is a screenshot of just a very simple search I did on children's books read aloud. And this is all the first several that I got, and they're great, but there's just thousands of good ones out there. Now, we got to be picky because there might be some that are not as good, so be careful of that. What I'd like you to do is just do some searching and see what you find. And there's some really great examples, and I think these are good for two reasons. Number one, they're good for you if you're learning how to do read alouds and you feel like you're not very good at it yet. There's some people who make an actual career out of just doing YouTube read aloud with children books, and you'll see some common ones here, these people who just do hundreds of children's books, and they're really good at it. So you can copy them. You could watch some actual teachers who post videos of them doing read alouds, or you can do these ones that are kind of more like almost like a show. They put a whole production together. The other purpose I think will help you with these YouTube read alouds is if you could add them into your curriculum and your instruction. So imagine if you're not really good at read alouds, or you want to be doing something else in that moment, you could play one of these in place of you doing the read aloud. It would also be a fun homework assignment, right? If you don't want to send home a big packet full of worksheets and you want students to practice reading, these read alouds are really wonderful because they actually show the book and it models that reading. And imagine how many kids would be excited to have that as homework. So think about the possibilities there and check some of these out. I have included one of my favorites here. One of my new favorite children's books is called Red, A Crayon Story. And this young lady, Bree Reed, she does a ton of these read alouds. And so she has a very detailed production, which might be much more than an average teacher would do, but it's a great resource. So you could check her out and some other similar ones. I just included this because it's a really good example of someone doing a very expressive, entertaining read aloud with a good children's book. Hers is much more almost on the level of a TV show like Blue's Clues or Mr. Rogers style kind of entertainment, but I think it's a fun one for you to check out. So do some reading online and see what you find. Look at some different videos that you like and find some books that you really liked when you were a kid or that you like reading to children. Maybe you'll find a good read aloud for that as an example. Finally, you're going to wrap this up by going to YouTube, like I mentioned, and picking one that you think is your favorite. Okay, so do some searching, critique it a little bit, figure out what the reader actually did. Did they model some print concepts? Did they point things out? Did they practice phonemes? Is there any certain kinds of concepts they were covering in that video? Did they do any asides throughout the story? Did they teach any specific literacy concept that we've already covered? Watch it carefully and look for those things. Post a link to this and share it, and then give us your critique of it and see, would you add something else to it? Are there some sight words you could have taught? Is there some specific skill you think you could have added to this? That's something you should be thinking about as you're posting about this video you found. So go ahead and visit the assignments folder, the early literacy folder, and look for the forum titled Early Literacy Concepts F and create a thread. This will be your last one for the review videos. There will be a final assignment that is a longer teacher observation. There will be no video lecture from me. Instead, it will be you actually observing a teacher doing a literacy lesson. So you'll be looking for all these little examples of things that you've learned so far. Good luck. Thank you for all your hard work and keep it up. We'll talk again soon.